Head over to thebestsongever.com and purchase our new hit, Together Again. It is a cover of Smokey Mike and the God King. That's Jeremy Boring and Michael Knowles. And with your help, we will smash our way onto the Billboard charts. We have this map we've talked about a couple times now. This is the A24 Civil War movie map showing their vision of a fictional civil war. Now, Michael, you just said you think there's a way to have a peaceful national divorce.
Yes.
And
I have my own map. Can I
disagree with you.
Okay.
Let's you can DM me it. Can you send
I'll do that right now.
Send it, DM me. I disagree. I don't believe it's possible to have a peaceful civil divorce. A peaceful national divorce.
It happened. Okay. The thing about the term peaceful, and I hear what you're saying. I'm not saying literally no violence, but I'm saying it could be the kind of thing that's resolved quite quickly. Because a lot of times, just like with nature, right? Let's use another example. You have like a big animal, like a tarsier. It's like a protosimian. I saw a video, and it's trying to eat a praying mantis, which is like 100th of its size. And that mantis just strikes for its eyes. And then the tarsier is like, oh crap, this is a problem. So a lot of times, if there's enough of pushback, people go to the negotiating table. That's all I'm saying. Did you
send it?
No, I'm sending it right now. 1 second.
So I suppose where I don't think what you're saying in any way conflicts with what my view would be. Sure. You could have a dissolution of the United States rapidly and very quickly, and then you will see a growing escalation to full-scale war at some point, and some point relatively quickly to the dissolution of the United States. We're talking about, we already have conflict between states over resources, over food, over water. We already have conflict over weapons. When you consider that some states have access to nuclear weapons, there can't be a simple dissolution of these agreements. You'd instantly have nuclear-powered countries staring down and facing down other states, and they might say something like, your state owes us X for these past grievances, and then you will instantly start to see conflict. Now, I don't think nuclear weapons are what we have to worry about. I think it'll be absolutely insane considering the distribution of resources in the United States. And what's a really fascinating idea that I was exploring with a creative IP I was looking at is, as we hyper-centralize the production...
It's the bottom one. I sent you to by mistake.
As we hyper-centralize the production of various resources, like we have the frack fields in North Dakota, you will end up with regions dominant in a singular production. So California's food. We just do all our food in California, basically, like a third of our food or something like that. You've got the frack fields in North Dakota producing more energy than any other part of the country, or presumably. And you have certain areas that are all coastal trade, the Rust Belt. I mean, maybe it used to be this way, but because of rail, because of freight, we've centralized these resources. It's going to be very strange if the country breaks apart and one nation or one state says, we need oil, and they start knocking on North Dakota's door, and North Dakota all of a sudden becomes one of the wealthiest states in the world, things like that.
When we were on the Blaze for election night, I just sent you I sent it twice by mistake. It's the bottom one. We all asked, what?
This is your map?
Yeah.
That's it?
So that's my map for national divorce. When we were on the Blaze, we all had to go around and say what we thought it would look like. Tim, all your points are taken, and I don't think they're inaccurate at all. But I'm thinking about like North Korea and South Korea have nukes pointing at each other. Negotiation is not going to be easy, but I always go back to Thomas Sowell, right? And the question he asked is, as compared to what? I think the status quo is also going to be Washington increasingly getting militaristic. I think especially the stuff going on with schools and kids, when you have things like sanctuary states for like trans kids and things like that, what California is going to be doing. I think parents are going to be increasingly radicalized and so on and so forth. And at a certain point, things are going to reach a head. The question is it going to be full-blown blitzkrieg, or is it going to be like something pops off and then cooler heads are like, okay, guys, this is getting crazy. And if things get crazier even further, it's really getting out of hand. So we have to figure something out.
I think everything you're saying plays very well to the A24 Films map.
I just don't think, I don't see, we talked about it earlier. Do you want to break it down? Because I think there's some things I would tweak with this map, but
yeah. So I think the first thing to consider is when the movie trailer first comes out, everyone says, why are Texas and California aligned? That makes no sense. It makes perfect sense. It really does.
But are they aligned really?
Yes. This map is plausible. And what that means is you can certainly make an argument for why you think it would not fall this way. But in terms of how they're envisioning this film and what a divided America could look like, I actually think this is very plausible. I don't know if it's the most probable. There's a lot of arguments that we can make as political junkies. But the reason why California and Texas would be in an alliance is not because they share values. It's because neither wants to be conquered by D.C.
Sure.
That's it.
I think Kentucky and Tennessee are extremely close culturally. So to find that line is really kind of odd to me.
No, but in terms of plausibility, you could easily look when the Civil War.
But the other thing is just because I'm blind. Are they aligned in that they're the same country, or they're just aligned in like an alliance like New York, like U.S. and Canada are aligned?
The Republic of Texas and California are two different republics that have an alliance.
Oh yeah, that's very plausible. Absolutely plausible. It's the case now.
Yes, and you may be arguing, why is Kentucky and Tennessee split? Military occupation by D.C. and moved in very quickly into Kentucky to stop, the other way around. They move into Tennessee to prevent Kentucky or vice versa. That's just Deus Ex Machina for a film. We can make any argument about what may happen.
The point you made was really key, and I think people didn't understand this. If it does blow out to like full-blown violence, and I pray to God it does not, state lines become irrelevant.
Yeah, you look at geographical borders, rivers and mountains. So the Ohio River would be one, the Mississippi River, the Rocky Mountains would be one.
This Oklahoma Panhandle is not going to be a thing. It's not possible.
Right. And that's why actually a lot of the eastern state borders would stand.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them were built, were formed simply because of geography. But I look, New England is a joke, right? This is one block. This whole thing, it's just instantly New York and Massachusetts.
I disagree because New Hampshire has a lot of people there, and they've been planning for this. They selected
a Democrat governor, didn't they?
Yeah, but the thing is, there's difference between what's intensity of opposition, right? So if you have a cadre of like 10% of the population who are really out of their minds and really want New Hampshire to be independent, it's going to be really hard to put those down.
Luke would come here all the time and advocate for us to move to New Hampshire because of the Free State Project. And I'm like, my friend, you are surrounded on all sides by leftist forces.
I will say because like upstate New York and like upper Maine are different. They tend to vote red. I mean, obviously Maine has Angus King, one of our only independents. There are potential like rebel factors in there,
but I don't really. I mean, he's technically
he caucuses with Democrats for sure.
I can't think of anything.
But I just mean symbolically, like there is a stratification within those regions. I just don't think it's enough to say that they would be able to fight off. I think it would be like you were saying before, like Seattle will have this one blue center, but ultimately that region is controlled. And I think you would have discontent in New England, but I don't think it would be enough to manage it.
And a Maine Democrat or even a Connecticut Democrat is not the same as an LA Democrat at all.
I mean, honestly, I think that was more the case 10 years ago. But as you see now with like West Virginia, and you see, we really don't have any blue dog Democrats anymore.
Correct.
So the internet is...
you know who's the one blue dog Democrat?
Who is it?
My hero, John Fetterman.
Yeah, I guess.
He's had the craziest 2023 story arc.
I contributed to his campaign. I spotted this guy from a mile away. You can't miss him.
There were funny memes of YouTube thumbnail. The meme is a YouTube thumbnail of Fetterman saying, "Why I left the left."
But in all seriousness, people are like, how did you predict this guy so well? John Fetterman, and he is one of these old school lefties who think the point of government is to help people who've been screwed over by the system, whether it's food stamps or whatever, who thinks politics can be honorable and that politicians shouldn't be put themselves on a pedestal and are just like someone trying to make the world a better place. So that old school Democrat stuff, which is almost kind of in the late 60s, that's him. So when people are surprised that he's taking these stances, I'm like, it makes perfect sense that he'd call it corruption, because in his point, government is something that can be used to help people who have been screwed over. And if that argument is one that I don't hate, and I say this as an anarchist.
There's a lot of people who, when it comes to the topic of civil war, like to point out that the entire country is red except for the cities. And that should civil war actually happen, New York, for instance, is red. New York City would not be able to sustain itself. But I agree with that general idea, but people don't understand that in Virginia, for instance, regular people going to and from work aren't going to be thinking about this. And so long as there is a weaponized law enforcement or militaristic faction that controls trade routes, those people will be subservient and loyal to whatever the dominant violent faction is.
There's two questions that I would have to break out. One is, and everyone says they have the answer and they don't, because you could say one thing theoretically, when S hit the fan, it's a very different situation. No one knows what the actual military would do. A lot of people are saying they would never fire on their own people.
Wrong.
Bull crap. Every country has that. We don't know percentage though. It could be like 100% will do it, 10%. How do you work that? Number two, just the other point is, we don't know how effective the corporate press will be in this situation at manipulating public opinion.
I think there was a graph that came out showing the ratings from the past week. Did you see it?
No.
Corporate press it's apocalyptic, the numbers that are dropping. It was really insane. I think like MSNBC dropped 15% in a week or something like that.
Yeah, but just because you don't trust them, if they're the only people you listen to, you're going to say, I hate him, but you're still going to listen to them.
If the internet gets shut down,
yes,
and it can be, people need to understand, it is possible to disrupt the internet very, very easily, the internet as we know it. It is impossible to stop internet communications, but centralized sources of information, X is one, for instance, where we go to, that's the hub. These things can all be shut down relatively easily, and then all you have is the New York Times.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And do you believe them? And that's what you will, that's it. But I will say, absolutely, the militaries, any branch would shoot American citizens. And I believe in the event of some kind of
they have done in the past.
Yeah, I Kent State. I mean, brutal. And I'm not arguing it was right or wrong. You can argue, but they were throwing rocks. I'm like, oh, they shot Americans. It happened. Like they opened fire and the guy got four dead. One guy got shot through the hand.
As if there wouldn't in this situation be plenty of false flags.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I want to drive this point home. The most dangerous thing I think our country faces is not the Clintons. It's not the Democrats. It's not the neolibs. Not the neocons.
It's not Trump.
It's not Trump. Certainly not Trump. Trump's one of the more positive forces, in my opinion. It is one simple thing. The biggest threat this country faces. It is the men and women of law enforcement, our armed and the armed forces who hold the ethos. I should just do my job. The most dangerous thing imaginable.
Okay. I have just done my job, so I should probably leave because that's the song I've been singing.
I know.
I'm not saying you don't know, but I'm just saying it's just delightful for me to hear someone who is much more mainstream in his views and more moderate than I to see very clearly this is what it comes down to.
You're calling me mainstream, but
I mean, you're not in
between the fringe far right Michael Malice's and the corporate press, maybe. Or something.
Sure.
We talked about this with Owen Schroyer. He said when he
talk about a martyr.
When he went to prison, he said there were prison guards saying, "Hey, I'm familiar with your work. I'm actually a fan, but I'm just doing my job, man." I would have looked him in the eye and say, "You are the evil I'm fighting against."
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
If these prison guards went to their bosses and said, "I am putting a hand on Owen Schroyer, and I'm not going to have any party to what you're doing to him. You find somebody else." And if they said, "I will fire you," my response would be, "My paycheck is not worth my soul."
But do you think that's?
But they all just said, "Duh, I don't care. I'll lock up a guy I like because I get my paycheck."
In that voice.
In that exact voice.
These are live audio recordings.
I have the documents.
But do you think part of it is that we are a country or a people without clearly defined values? I think people don't really know what they stand for it. So it's easy to say, well, I just have to stand by my paycheck.
I think conservatives very much advocate, and this is not generally a wrong thing. I think this is actually a good rule in general, to play by the rules and be a good person and not be a troublemaker. But they apply that literally like 100% of the time. And sometimes you want to make trouble because otherwise the trouble's here already.
Mm-hmm. I just want to point out real quick, when you search Google for U.S. Civil War, the fourth story is Trump barred from Colorado primary ballot for role in U.S. Capitol attack. So, and that's from 1 hour ago.
But
so
what
you
role
have Civil War history, never Trumpers gearing for Civil War.
First of all, what role did he have, even allegedly? He said, go over there peacefully and make your voice heard. This is First Amendment
And then he
stuff.
said, respect law enforcement. We respect law enforcement. Everyone should go home. But
he's crazy. He was out of control,
this is why,
assembling a crowd.
I don't like the Democrats and what they're doing. There's a lot of Republicans I also don't like, but there's a handful that are okay. But none of that terrifies me. What terrifies me is police officers, U.S. servicemen and women, and prison guards who know they're standing alongside the devil. And you can call that figurative or literal. If you are someone of faith, you view it as literal. We can call it as
literal.
You can view it as spiritual or as a pragmatic. I'm saying quite literally, when I heard that from Owen Schroyer, these prison guards may as well have been the demons fighting alongside Satan himself. They know what they're doing is wrong. They know they're on the side of evil, and they don't care.
And here's the other thing. It'd be one thing. They got a family to feed. If they tried looking for other jobs, nothing came up. And it's like, look, it's either this or my kids starve. then that's fine. But they haven't tried looking for other jobs. And the other thing is, I've modulated my views on the police a little bit because I've spent way too much time watching police body cam footage on YouTube. And apparently now snuff films are a thing. You just go on YouTube and watch people get murdered.
There are channels dedicated to nothing but.
Yeah. And a lot of times you respect the police a lot more because they're dealing with an absolute maniac who's just and they have to be like, sir or ma'am. And it's just like, I feel like this is your job. I feel for you. But then there's videos of some mentally disabled guy having a problem at Target with the self-checkout, and they're just manhandling him. And the guy's like in this voice being like, I didn't do anything. And I'm like, if you're putting your hands on someone who is mentally disabled or elderly or a child because they're having a problem with the cashier, yeah, why did Target call them to begin with? Okay, it's a separate question. And you can look at yourself in the mirror, you are a demon.
I mean, this is why the country's falling apart. You have many of these leftists and Democrats that want to abolish the police, but I mean, I think the fair point is...
No, they want to abolish policing. That's the thing. You and I want to abolish the... Hold on, let me say one thing. We want to abolish the police in that we don't want a government monopoly, but they don't want people to be put in jail.
Well, I actually disagree. My point I was going to make is they will actually say whatever they need to say.
Oh, sure, that's fair. I'm sorry.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, they'll say today, these police are evil. Then when the cops come and mercilessly beat you, they'll laugh while it happens.
Yeah, oh yeah.
When the cops arrest Derek Chauvin, they clap and cheer.
Look at Jimmy. Okay, here's another example. Look at Jimmy Kimmel, who's crying because his kid was sick, and I don't wish this on almost anybody, and my heart goes out to that kid. And then he's literally laughing, like, you didn't get vaccinated and you go to the hospital, and you're not getting treatment? Sorry, coffee. And the audience laughs.
Yep.
And it's just like, you're a demon.
Yeah, I'm done defending these people. I'm not going to say anything about his child. I'm done defending them or saying anything nice about him. I had this view in the 2010s about free speech, where I was like, we have to defend free speech even for the people that we don't like, because that's the point of free speech. And so you had these leftists and these woke people saying no free speech. Then they would get censored, and I'd come out along with everyone else and say, unban them. That was wrong. We believe in free speech. They would get unbanned and say, thank you. Immediately then go, now ban them. And then I had the realization, you know what? Free speech extends to those who believe in free speech. End of story. If these people come out and they cry, what about my free speech? I'll say, you don't deserve it because you don't want it. I will give you exactly what you ask for. If they start banning people who believe in free speech, I will advocate for their free speech, but I will not defend people who are trying to burn it to the ground.
When Frank Herbert had this great quote in Dune, he goes, when I'm weaker than you, I ask for freedom because that is according to your principles. And when I'm stronger than you, I take away your freedom because that is according to my principles.
Exactly.
That's exactly the thing. I've never been for free speech. I hate that term. I've always thought freedom of association is much more important than free speech. If you want to go talk in some closet and have your own microphone, that's fine. But there's plenty of reasons why I don't want you on my platform. I don't want to be associated with you. If only because you're just obnoxious and bring nothing to the table.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.